It's very difficult to accomplish a goal that you're not emotionally charged by, because emotion is everything. When I was 16, I was kidnapped out of my bed and by two men and put into knee braces so that I couldn't run. We fought breast cancer all the way through 2021.
Wow.
16 rounds of chemo, 25 rounds of radiation. And I can tell you, there's nothing more special than family, period.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more special than having a fierce significant other that is a bad motherfucker that'll go to bat for you the whole time. If your kids are even the slightest level of savage, they are going to absolutely annihilate their competition in this generation.
Mr. Josh Galindo, what is up, brother? Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Appreciate it.
Well, first off, for those of you guys that are watching and listening, if you grow in the business, entrepreneurship, Las Vegas, real estate circle, everyone knows his business, his name, his brand, some of the stuff that I'll be talking about today, getting to know him. But more importantly, Josh, everyone around the Valley knows you're a successful entrepreneur. But today, I would like to get to know you as a person, because I think everything stems from who you are as a person, and at your core, right? I think that's the most important thing. But again, thanks for the time, brother. But hey, let's just dive right in. You and I are kind of meeting officially for the first time today. Tell me a little bit about yourself. How long you been in the Valley? Are you a native? What's going on here in terms of you being in Vegas?
So my name's Josh Galindo. I am born and raised in Las Vegas. My mother was born and raised here, and her father was born and raised here. So our family has been here for many, many, many years, back to the Hoover Dam days. So born and raised here. I am married. I have 4 children, 9, 7, 5, and 3. I have been married for 12 years. I love the shit out of my wife, if that's okay to say.
Of course.
And I own Galindo Group Real Estate. So I am a licensed real estate broker, and 80 to 90 at any given time. Realtors trust my brokerage to hang their license and I'm very thankful for that. And then I'm a real estate investor. I buy and hold property. I believe that is the key to wealth. So I'm really passionate about that. And then I flip property, which is my main source of income. But in a nutshell, we run 5 businesses, and it's all real estate related. And I'm a big believer in mindset, being kind to people, and programming and tuning this to get you to be able to accomplish anything that you want to do. I find a tremendous amount of fulfillment in that space, and I'm excited to share what has got me to where I'm at with the world.
Love it. I love it. Let's stick with mindset a little bit, in doing and getting to know you through social media and stuff. I've heard you say again, mindset for you is the key. And I believe in a couple of videos in the past, you've mentioned your mom instilled in you at a young age, a certain type of mindset. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
She did. My mom was a single mom. Raised us. My mom was raised us with no dad. It's a single mother.
Mm-hmm.
Her father was diagnosed with cancer and during her childhood, and kind of basically almost died for 16 years. And then she got married very young. Dad wasn't very good to her or us, and left. And I just give you that little elevator pitch to kind of describe her mindset to better create some perspective and better answer that question. She's tough as nails, and she's ambitious, and there wasn't really any room for any nonsense. Like, we had to just execute, because she was raising my sister and I alone, and I was the incredibly rambunctious. That's probably the term they use when you're young, but the reality was I was an ambitious young kid.
Yeah.
And always trying to figure things out. And my mom instilled in us, there's no quit, to dig deep. But it wasn't just like that tough love where she was, muscle up, get tough, figure it out. She would describe the tool for me to be able to visualize in my mind and be able to reproduce and duplicate and use again outside of that one event. And that to me was special, because now it's not just mom kicking my ass and telling me to just do something that I don't know how to do. It was, stop. This is how you do it. This is the tool you could tap into in your mind. Now execute it. And then you can use that moving forward in your life. So she always instilled that in me, but obviously I couldn't get past the fact that my dad had left when I was 1 year old and my sister was 3.
Mm-hmm.
That created a ton of self-limiting beliefs, a ton of issues, worthiness issues, insecurities, all the above. So even with her exceptional parenting, and I really got to give it to her, it's never to just float her boat. If she was a terrible mother, I'd say that too, but no, she wasn't. I couldn't stay on the right path. And so when I was 16, I'll give you a little elevator pitch on this statement, on this story. When I was 16, I was kidnapped out of my bed and by 2 men and put into knee braces so that I couldn't run, and then thrown into the back of a car, driven to the airport, walked through the airport, got into an airplane, flew to San Diego, landed in San Diego, drove into Ensenada, Mexico, and I lived in Ensenada, Mexico for 16 months in a lockdown facility that was basically a combination of a rehab, a boot camp, and a boarding school, all blended together. That was obviously coordinated by my mother, but she knew she could never drive me down there, so she had to coordinate the transporters. But yeah, so when I was in that school, I that's where I really learned how important it was to have a tuned up mind, because that school was a results-based school. There was no, if you're here for 6 months, you get to go home. If you're here for a year, you get to go home. It was like, no, I had to learn how to navigate a whole new world, boys only, couldn't talk without permission, couldn't get up without permission, couldn't go to the bathroom without permission, couldn't eat without permission, school 6 days a week. So you learn how to become arguably a special, tuned up human being when you go through something like that. And so I was able to get out of that place in 16 months because instead of fighting it, I embraced it.
Yeah.
And those were a lot of my tools that I preach about stemming from.
That's interesting. I one of the things that popped out of my mind when you're telling that story, first of all, holy hell, what a crazy story, right? And I love opportunities like this, Josh, because you just never know what people's backgrounds are and the things they've been through, right? I mean, we are who we are due to our experiences and the I guess the definition of our experience that we give it, right? It's easy for anybody, including myself, not knowing Josh Galindo and seeing his sign everywhere, recognizing his brand and seeing him drive a fancy car and say, wow, must be nice. But people always skip to the must be nice part and never really dive into what the hell led up to get to where you're at. One of the things you spoke of during that facility experience is it's results driven and results based. I think that's super key. Do you think that's a little bit lacking in our society right now, where there's a lot of fluff and people aren't results driven?
Absolutely. I think the greatest thing, the greatest social media post that is circling the internet is the Dana White one, where he says, if your kids are even the slightest level of savage, they are going to absolutely annihilate their competition in this generation. Yeah. And I can't agree more. And I program my children to be tough and intuitive and confident and results based. And they don't just get a toy. They don't just get a new pair of shoes. Like, my kids work and pay for stuff, and I teach them that. And I think that's incredibly important, because my ambitions, I could become blinded as a father that is coming from a space of love with an abundance of resources. And to me, it's like, oh, it's $70, no big deal to buy my kid a pair of shoes. Well, the reality is that's totally ruining him, because in his world, he has to learn that $70 is in fact a lot of money.
Sure.
So, maybe if there's something that I do want to get him, then I'll subsidize the deal a little bit. Listen, I'll pay for half whatever you raise. If you go and save $35, I'll give you that at $35. We'll go buy the $70 pair of shoes. If it's something that I don't want to buy him, then he's got to buy it on his own. And The neighbors all support that. I tell my neighbors, don't ruin my kids by giving them a $20 bill. If they come pick up dog poop in the backyard, you give them $2 to $5. If you ruin them with a $20 bill, you've kind of defeated this whole thing. And most of my neighbors are entrepreneurs and understand the logic there. So, but yeah, absolutely. I think this society, the sad thing is I think it's happening with adults. I think these adults,
Oh yeah.
it's unbelievable. The big message that I've been one of many messages that I've been banging on is the victim mindset. And it's so simple to scrub that out. The question I encourage people when listening to this to ask themselves is the outcome of your life your fault? And if you say no, then you're a victim.
Right. I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'm 100% accountable for my life. The results of my life are my fault, whether they're good or bad.
Yep. Right. I recently just shared this with another podcast when I was being interviewed, and I said, I don't have a lot of talents. I don't have a lot of superpower, but I do have one superpower. And that superpower is I put the blame of results of my life on me. Now I can sit here and go, oh, but this happened. That was out of my control. No, at some point I miscalculated something. I trusted the wrong person. I made an error in a move. I waited too long. I procrastinated. I went into whatever it is. But the beauty and the flip side of that, Josh, and you know this better than anybody, is if you put the results of your life into you as your responsibility, you also empower yourself to change. And that's the thing that people, I think, can't get past because they wallow in the mud, they have hurt feelings, and they get stuck there. They don't look at it as, this is empowering because if I got myself into this, I can get myself out of this, right? And you brought up your kids, and I'm very encouraged by hearing you and parents like you on how you raise your kids, because it's like that old saying, tough times create strong men create great times create soft men. How do we avoid creating soft generation, especially when your kids are born into, opportunity and wealth? So I'm glad to hear that, man. Now, as far as you being now owning or running, multiple businesses, I do see people fall into the trap of being in their own bubble and being surrounded by yes men and being surrounded by people that literally just tell them what they want to hear, and they lose that. Do you find yourself making sure that you're always grounded? And if so, how do you do that? Being a boss, being, an owner?
It's a great question. And everything that you just said, I just want to just overly communicate that I agree 100%. Now is articulated flawlessly.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well done. Yeah. No, and I say that more for your listeners than you, because you knew it was, you wouldn't have said it. But so how do I stay humble? Well, here's the thing: is I've been in business since 2005. So I've been in business in the 2008 recession. I've been in business. I had to struggle through 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I kind of got back on my feet. 13 was great. 14 was tough. 15 was regular. 16 was great. 17 was tough. 18 was great. 19 was a hangover. 20 was COVID. 21 was great. 22 was great. 23 was interest rates doubled. So to me, what I've learned in all of those obstacles and all of those moments where I'm going to lose it all again. And the other thing is I was in business when I had an opportunity to lose everything. There was a lot of these millennials, and I'm a millennial. There's a lot of these, guys that are in the business that didn't have the luxury of going through the Great Recession.
Right.
I was young. I was only 21, 22. I don't know how old I was, 23, whatever year it was. So I was young. So a lot of these guys were in college. I never went to college. I'm a high school dropout, and I never went to college. So I just jumped right into the workforce. But that experience to me, because there was a moment where I thought I was the man, making deep in 2005 and 6 and the end of 7, I was living high, right? Probably, not even irresponsibly, but just unsafely, because nobody at 23 should have been making the kind of money that I was making. But that's whatever. That's a lesson that I'm very grateful to have learned. I was humbled because I lost everything. And I was back to the pool, selling chairs at the Mirage, selling chairs at the Palazzo. And then as I got back on my feet, I had a moment where I was like, I'll never forget the moment. I lived in Mountain's Edge at the time. I was driving a black LS 460 Lexus, very proud of the car, had all the windows down. It was one of them special days where the weather was exceptional. and I just closed the deal. I think I probably made 20 or 30 grand. I don't remember what the amount of money was, but it was enough to make me feel really, really good about myself.
Right.
And I had a moment where I wanted to turn the music up, drive fast, feel real special.
Mm-hmm.
That moment I said, don't do it, man. Every time you do it, the universe puts your teeth on the curb and gets you in the back of the head.
Yep.
So I have lived in that space. And the other thing that I've done is in every neighborhood that I've lived in, because I'm always growing very quickly. I'm always pushing myself for more growth. It's never enough. I'm never satisfied. So when I lived in Mountain's Edge, I was like 25 or 6. I was living in a 4,200 square foot house. So all my neighbors were older and wealthier than I was. So I was pushing to get to their level. Once I reached their level, so my point in saying, I'll summarize this. Once I got to their level, I moved. I moved in and scraped my way into a Summerlin neighborhood. All of the neighbors around me easily bought their homes. I scraped my way in. And then I lived there until I leveled up to their level. Then I moved to the Ridges. And when I first went to the Ridges, I scraped my way in. I remember going to my payment thinking, holy shit, I don't know how I'm ever going to make this. I knew, but I mean, it's still shocking. And then I level up to my neighbors, and there will be a moment in the short term that I will level up to the same level as my neighbors and move to either a different pocket of the Ridges or a nicer community. But my point is I never sit in my pool and look around and go, my pool of influence, and look around and go, I'm the best.
Right.
I'm always putting myself in a position to be re-humbled. Like when I go out to dinner with my neighbors, the bill's $2,500 and they don't even blink. I'm having heartburn and I can afford it, but I'm having heartburn. You know what I'm saying? That's staying humble, and so, and I live in Silver Ridge, I live in Silver Ridge. My house, when I bought it, was $1.5 million. I'm also reminded when I drive to the gate and I see a $1 million Ferrari drive through, that my little $237,000 Lamborghini is a pimple on an ass the size of Texas. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am always consciously reminding myself to be humble, because I've never found being arrogant and cocky to serve me well, ever.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
Just don't tap into it. I don't ever think I'm the man. I know somebody's got a better Lamborghini than me. I know somebody's got more money than me. I know that, I was just doing an event with a gentleman named Troy Kearns. Guy's got 240 houses, and that's $180,000 a month. Like, dude, I'm not even close. And well, I don't walk in and think I'm the man. I know that I got to get to Troy's level. And when I get to Troy's level, I'm going to find Troy 2.0 and get to his level. I never drink my own Kool-Aid. It never serves me. So I just don't do it.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And the analogy with that is you got to make sure that in the mat, on the wrestling mat, in the gym, in the boxing ring, if you're the best, there's no room for improvement. You're going to be stagnant real quick. It's like the old saying, it's easy to become a champion. It's harder to stay a champion, because you don't have those people challenging you. And you purposely putting yourself in those circles and being the smaller fish in the pond, that's huge. Because I think that is the curse, is that it's so easy to drink your own Kool-Aid. Your buddies around you that, are doing status quo, and all of a sudden you have a little jump in finance or anything else. Now all of a sudden you're the man. It's so tempting to just sit there and feel like you're the man, right? I'm sure you have to fight that urge too. That's beautiful, man. I love hearing stuff like that. And for those of you guys that are sitting there and listening and going, oh my God, he's talking about a $250,000 car and a big, mansion and this and that. You have to realize those are tangible items just for point of reference. And I guarantee you, for you, Josh, at this level, I'll dare to say another $250,000, $500,000, $1 million is nice, but it won't change your life that drastically. It's not about that anymore, right? So if you can articulate for me, what is it about?
So I really want to tap on what you just said there. There's a few things that I'm very conscious of, and I kind of intentionally introduced myself, who I am, and then who's my family. And then I didn't go too heavy into the assets. Sometimes I do have to kind of give a quick elevator pitch that I'm worth listening to because this is what I've accomplished.
Absolutely.
I didn't go there. But what I know and I understand, and it's kind of back to your previous point about humility, is all of the material shit is bullshit. It's all bullshit. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It doesn't mean that it's good. It's just bullshit. And we know that that's what it is. But I'm also very conscious on what the intentions are behind it. To me, they're all tools. There are ways that I'm communicating with the world outside of this. When I drive up with the Lamborghini, I don't have to say a word, but the world around me looks at me jumping out of that car and says, that person was able to make enough intelligent decisions consecutively to put himself in a position to be able to own that vehicle. Right. That person has made enough good decisions consecutively to be able to own that home. And so I'm doubling down on my communication with my surroundings with having these tools. They don't make, my neighbor's got a $700,000 Lamborghini, literally, guy across the street. I mean, I can't be more humble, so they aren't about just stroking my ego. Honestly, I wish I'd bought the Lamborghini sooner. I can't believe the social experiment that is taking place with this car.
Wow.
I bought a $1.5 million cabin in Bryan Head. The payment's $7,400 a month, and I pay it with my rentals. My rentals pay for it. Mm-hmm. Nobody thought I was rich when I bought that. I've owned that for a year. Nobody thought I was rich.
No,
and all of a sudden, I buy a $237,000 car, a depreciating asset that's arguably a dumb thing to purchase. And all of a sudden, but so it's just interesting. But that's why I like mindset so much. I'm conscious of it. I'm aware of it. That's why I'm not drinking my own Kool-Aid. I understand the intent of this machine and its purpose and how it's assisting me as an additional tool on my journey. And that's what it is. It's just a tool. Yeah. And I tell people that, so they don't think that I'm all about the car. No, I know what this car represents. It's just a car, and it's intended to be a tool to help me get attention. Right. So I could spread my, so that I could get eyeballs, because eyeballs is how you make money.
Right. Right. Well, it's your elevator pitch before you do your elevator pitch, right? So, no, I love it. It's your driving billboard is what it is. I've heard you talk about manifestation, and before it was termed, the secret, the book that came out, so that I'm a firm believer in positive thinking, visualization, all that stuff. So I think, people that are wired that way have been doing that for years. But for you, like, can you kind of elaborate on how you visualize? How do you make things happen?
So I'll give you like a usable tool / answer to your question. Mm-hmm. For the listener, if you want to figure, some people don't understand how to create a goal, or how to accomplish a goal, let alone create then accomplish. Right. In order to create a goal, you've got to visualize it. In order to accomplish it, you've got to have emotion behind it. It's very difficult to accomplish a goal that you're not emotionally charged by, because emotion is everything. Mm-hmm. Emotion is everything. That's how these people can pick up cars when they ran over their significant others. It's because emotion is driving that physical response. I couldn't pick up a car right now, but I could tell you if there was a kid underneath, one of my kids underneath the car, I could probably pick it up. Right. And maybe I could. I'd certainly find a way to get it up. So what I say to do is visualize whatever it is that you're wanting to accomplish in the near future or in the distant future, whichever it is. And you keep visualizing it until you get an emotional response in your chest, and you will. My goals are different, so I can't quite get there, but I'm going to go back to like the Lamborghini. Mm-hmm. One day I want to be, and I'd manifested that car into my life about that fast. The second I put my intention on it, it came to me. So, I want a Lamborghini. I want to be able to drive around the city with the top down and inspire people like that one gentleman did for me when I was in my truck looking down on his SL500 with his top down, in 2005. I remember seeing a guy at a stoplight and being like, I want to be that guy one day. So I said, I want to be that guy for other people. I want to be able to feel the engine pop when I let off the gas because it goes, da, 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 da. That's how the Lamborghinis are. I want to look at my wife with the top down and the cool air coming in, and know that we've made it. And then boom, okay, now I feel emotion. Now, once I feel emotion, what I say to do is screenshot it in your brain. Okay. Now you've got a photo of what emotionally triggered you. Now, if you can't find it in a magazine, that's kind of the old school way to do this. You can go to Google and start typing in the picture that you've created in your mind. So white Lamborghini, sunny day, convertible, girl in car, enter, and then go to images and scroll until you find that image that matches as closely as possible to your mind, to your vision, and then print that out, and then start looking at that, and then start believing it. Manifestation, I believe, is compared to religion. No one's ever seen God, generally speaking, but yet they find it in them to have faith and believe that God and those religious figures exist or existed. So if they're capable of implementing that level of faith into that, why wouldn't they be capable of implementing that level of faith into the power of manifestation? It's just a choice. It's just a choice. If you could do it here, you could do it here. And all that's really doing is saying that I do believe in my core that I will have these things. And when you ask me, manifestation is huge for all of my success. I also am very calculated on how I accomplish my goals. They're very calculated every year. And at the end of December, I predict what I'm going to make. I put together actionable items that I have to accomplish in order to make that, all based on a certain amount per actionable item. And I stay focused all year until I make it. I've never not made the amount of money I want to make since 2013. It was the first year that I started doing this. And in 13, I'd set a number, I made it. 14, 15, 16, I either hit the number or make more. But I'm believing it the whole time. Yeah, manifestation is 60% of my formula.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So the caveat that I want to add to that, and you've already said it too, is if you listen to what Josh is saying, is you have to also apply massive amount of action behind it, right? I think the mistake is everyone thinks, okay, I'm going to go to Michael's or Kinko's and buy a big old board and write a bunch of stuff and post pictures and stare at it in the mirror every day. And then I go to sleep and I wake up and I do the same thing. No. There's magic behind action. So you have to take the action. And I think you hit it on the head. The only way that you're going to get out of bed and do the things that you're supposed to do and have to do in order to get your goals is you have to attach that emotion to it, right? Whether it's your kids, your family, your future, and how you want to lay it out. Because if I sit here and I go, I want a nice shiny Lamborghini, and it ends there, it's a cool thought, but what's the purpose? What's the motion behind that that's going to push me out? So emotion, manifestation, attach it with emotion, massive amount of action. And I think, those three things is what's going to do it. Love it, man. I love it. So I know you're born with a certain gear. So what is your belief in terms of success and people, the way they're wired? Are high achievers wired a certain way, or can you learn success, in your opinion?
Yes. In my opinion, so I like to just reference myself when I'm providing an opinion because that's the only thing that I can do. I'm speculating outside of that. I am wired a very certain way. Mm-hmm. And I think that your surroundings wire you that way. Your upbringing, your life. I think my dad leaving when I was young made me feel weak and insecure and not worthy of love or whatever the issue was. And I told myself one day, I never want to feel that again. And then I got a little taste that if you have enough money, you can kind of dictate the direction that you go in life. And that felt good. And then I was like, I want to do more of that. And then before I do it, I was like, I really like this train. I'm going to stay on it. So is it, I just think people will find success in different ways. My way is kind of what I just described to you right there. Was I born with that? I don't know if I was born with that or if my upbringing created that, but there is an argument that I think, okay, I'm being wordy here, but the simple answer from me is that, yeah, you're born with it. I think you're either born with it or you're not. And I think it's important to listeners when they hear this, because I don't want to discourage anybody. The planet needs everyone. And it needs everyone. We need the garbage men. We need, people working at the fast food places. We need servers. We need landscapers. We need all of that. Otherwise, society wouldn't function as properly as it's functioning. And the other thing is that success is all based on how you define it. For me, success is accomplishing. Now, unfortunately, society, accomplishment is always in the form of money, but for me, but it doesn't have to be. My wife's parents aren't wildly successful, but if I sat them down on their deathbed and and looked at them and said, did you feel like you lived a successful life? They would say without a doubt. And I believe they believe that. I feel that they live a very fulfilling life. They're very fulfilled in their life. Because their life and their definition of success is completely different than mine, and they are living their version of success.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to say that so that somebody listening is not saying to themselves, well, if I can't make money, I'm not successful. Not true at all. It's just your definition of success. But yes, if you want to be an entrepreneur, now let's go back to that and zero in on that. I think it takes a certain person.
Agreed.
I think it takes incredible discipline. It takes a person that's able to endure an enormous amount of pain and push through. I think it requires a certain level of skill. And I think even bigger for me, again, I'm talking about myself, is the ability to communicate. The ability to articulate your thoughts, communicate, have a special skill, and then have discipline. That will take you as far as you'd like to go, because discipline means doing something that has to be done, even if you don't want to do it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what growth is. That's what hard work is. Hard work. I was just talking to my team about this. I could say the reason I think I'm so successful and I generalize things like this is because I'll outwork anybody. And then I was thinking about it this morning in the gym. That's why this was fresh on my mind. I'm like, that's not true. And I should probably re-articulate that, because what I'm implying is that I'm physically more special than the other person. And my body was crafted differently to be able to outwork that person. We know that's not true. We're made up of the same thing.
Right.
The difference is that I have discipline over everybody else. That is what hard work is to me, is I'll repetitively use that level of discipline over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I don't get tired. I don't buy into my excuses. I don't buy into my bullshit. It's like, no, this has to be done in order to get to my goal.
Right.
And you know what's happening, Rick, which is so crazy, is that my sphere of influence is so used to seeing me grow and produce that anything else would be uncomfortable for my friends and family. Like if they didn't see me, and so now I've got the momentum of my sphere of influence, like just pushing me forward at all times. You know, Josh, when are we going to do this next thing? When are we going to do this next thing? I'm like, that felt kind of cool. They thought that I had to go do that. I'm going to go see if I can go do that. And then I go do it. And then we have to do this, you know? So I don't know, kind of interesting.
No, it's pretty cool. And I think I can summarize it by remembering and paraphrasing Jim Rohn, or possibly Tony Robbins that said this one time, where they can predict what's in your savings account. And again, guys, we talk about money because it's tangible and it's a scorekeeper. It's really what it is.
Yep.
But they can predict what's in your savings by talking to you, by listening to what your standard for yourself is. It's the standard that you set for yourself. And within that standard will dictate your behavior. And the more important thing is they'll dictate your behavior when things suck. When the weather is cold, are you going to go out and run like, you know, the crazy guy, David Goggins, right? Are you going to still push through and build this business through a recession, through COVID, through whatever? Are you going to take risks? And that, I think, is what a lot of society is missing, because we've made life we made it too easy. You know, contrary to what the media tells the world or tells us, life is pretty freaking easy, bro. You know what I mean? And I think that's where the mistake of society is. We lean into that. Dude, this is awesome conversation, man. I can go on forever. I'm being very mindful of the time because I know you're super busy. I do want to hit on this because it can't always be about business. You got a big family. I presume your family is your number one driving force, your kids, your wife, what have you. Talk to me a little bit about being a dad. Talk to me a little bit about being a husband. What are some of your philosophies in making sure that you're number one in that arena as well?
Great question. So one of my first and foremost, my philosophy with my marriage is that we are number one, period. Okay. So my wife is number one in my world, and I have a commitment from her that I am number one in her world. And what does that? That means that I am number one outside of the kids. I am number one outside of her mom and her dad, and she is number one outside of my mom and my sister. And the reason that's so important is that you can get these in-laws that will create a divide. And if you divide my wife and I, if there's a divide in us, if there is any hiccup in our system, it affects our children. If my wife makes the children priority over me, and then it debilitates our relationship, it affects the children. So my point is that I think my wife and I have concluded is as long as we are incredibly healthy, my wife and I, as a team, and everybody around us will be healthy, and then and we can take care of people. We can't take care of anybody if we're not taking care of ourselves.
Right.
So we've made a commitment to ensure that we are looking out for each other at all times. And I watch some of our other friends and family. The mother-in-law is makes them so they can't even stand their husband or their wife because of this or that. And I'm like, those are divides. And at some point, when you become a union, I'm almost sounding religious. I don't even talk like that way normally, but when you become one, you've truly become one. You've got to be an impenetrable force to all exterior things. And I see a lot of these, we had kids young, but some of my friends are having kids, and all of a sudden it's all about the kid.
Right.
Well, I think that goes to your point that's how these kids become mush, because their whole world is that it's all about the kid, and it shouldn't be. And then that kid becomes entitled, and there's stuff there. But anyway, the other thing, so that's the one that I believe with my wife. If she's number one, I am her number one. We're an impenetrable force. If anybody tries to get in and create a divide or talk bad about one or the other, then it is our obligation to defend the other. And when you do that, then you just start creating this standard, to your point, around us, this little bubble that keeps us protected. And people just know I can't go and talk shit about Josh to Crystal, and people can't come to me and talk shit about Crystal to me. It just won't be accepted.
Right.
Okay, so that keeps us solid and strong. Now, what do I believe about my children? I go to every single soccer practice, and I have 4 children in soccer. I go to every single soccer practice. I go to every single game. I am there with my kids at everything that they do. Every school event that they have, I go to. People go, how do you create work and family life balance? I actually don't believe in creating balance. I just blend the two. My kids, if I'm driving home from a soccer game on Saturday and I'm over near Sun City, Summerlin, and I got the whole car full of kids, we'll go stop by one of the flips because we're in the area. And then my kids will run in. My kids have been in probably 800 of the 1,000 homes that I've been in, that I've flipped, because we're always touching them, throughout the city, so my kids, and the way that I look at that is that I'm setting an example, right? That I'm a hard worker, that I'm a hard worker. And I want, that's the programming that I'd like to, instill in my children is hard work, but it doesn't have to be hard work without my family. My kids come to the office after school. They know not to be shitheads and run around and break things. They sit down, they do their homework, they focus, but their subconscious is picking up 100% that mom and dad are hard at work and are focused and are disciplined. Now, when they'll use that, who knows, when they're probably older. But family's everything. I could tell you, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer in 21. 22. 21. We fought breast cancer all the way through 2021. 16 rounds of chemo, 25 rounds of radiation. And I could tell you, there's nothing more special than family, period. Yeah. And there's nothing more special than having a fierce significant other that is a bad motherfucker that'll go to bat for you the whole time.
Right.
And that was us. And so, to me, you gotta, whoever you're gonna have a family with, you better love them, because as soon as the kids come, it don't get easier.
Yeah.
And be faithful and over communicate. I believe in therapy. My wife and I have been to therapy too many times. I couldn't even tell you. So therapy's strong. That's my 2 cents on family and marriage.
No, that's great, man. That's great. And I think going back to what you were saying, the first point with the marriage is it's that, philosophy. You got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you help others, right? So you guys are the foundation of everything else, the kids, the business, everything else. It's like, we all know that term, ride or die. My wife and I, we are 1,000% ride or die for each other. That's it, man. And everything else will fall into place as it goes. I got 2 more questions for you, my friend, then I'm going to let you go. First question is, when was the last time, if you can recall, you stopped and smelled the roses, where you had a moment whether by yourself, with your family, with a partner, whatever it is, you go, damn, you had a Drake moment, start at the bottom, now we're here moment, right? Do you remember the last time you had that moment?
Um, I've been having it more often
Good.
than I'd ever had in my entire life. And the breast cancer thing kind of clicked. This
Mm,
most recent interest rate increase clicked, because what happened is I pulled all my money out of the market. I've never had all my cash out of the market. So I've never actually felt rich. Was another way that I always stayed humble too, is I always
yeah.
kept my money out so that I never actually felt rich. I always felt poor, to be honest.
Yeah.
But so I brought it all back. And then I did the math. I'm 38 years old. If I'm blessed enough to have good health until I'm 72, then I got half my life left to live. And then even more important, the major part of that life is my children, when they care about being around dad.
Mm,
Okay. When I made the final decision to go and spend that money on that Lamborghini, I said to myself, do I want to, at 55, call my son Beckham and go, hey, son, dad bought a new car. Can you make time next weekend maybe to come over and check it out? Or do I want to drive home when he's 9 years old and watch him explode in excitement and think I'm the coolest thing on the planet and find it so fun and fulfilling? I only got 5 more years, 8 more years of that with that one kid.
mm.
Why would I waste just so I could save more and have more? Like, now is the time to be enjoying these things with my children when they want to be around me. Because when they all move out, I don't give a shit if I'm broke. I don't need money. So I've been enjoying the fruits of my labor recently. And I'm sitting at the bar with my wife in my house. And maybe it's midnight. I had my legs in her chair. She had her legs in my chair. And I looked at her and I'm like, babe, we fucking, you know, without disclosing everything, but I'm like,
Yeah.
we made it.
Yeah.
We made it. And so recently is the answer. And it was very special. It was very special. And I only basked in it momentarily because I believe in keeping myself humble. And my wife's a big believer in smelling the roses. I don't want to, because I'm so afraid of getting hung up on myself and thinking that I made it, that I get complacent. So
Mm.
I will stop for a brief moment, but I get right back in the car and keep going.
You and I are kind of the similar in that way. And I'll give you the best visualization is I feel my success is like a track meet. If I turn around and look, I'm going to lose steps. I'm going to lose milliseconds. And that failure that I've had in the past, because same as you, man, at one point in my life, after post 2008, 2007, I proudly tell this story. I owed the IRS like $50,000. My credit score was 4 something. I lost my first home. I had a $250 Capital One credit card limit, $250. You know what I mean? So for me, it's similar to you. It's like I bask 30 seconds. All right, buddy, we got to keep going. We got to keep running. Yeah,
Yep.
Usain Bolt is right behind me. I got to go. So
Right.
I definitely relate. So the last thing I'm going to ask you is what's in your heart, what's in your mind. Give some tidbits or just some life experience, wisdom. If you had a message to give to the audience, to the world, to your kids, what would it be?
So we operate from a space of fear because that's what our bodies have provided us so that we stay safe. But if you go back through the whole track record of our individual lives and look at each moment that we had fear, adversity, challenge, whatever you want to describe it as, we've all come out of it, and we've all come out of it well. But the problem is that everybody remembers the pain, but nobody remembers the triumph of coming out of it. Now, if we all focused on the triumph that we've had when we came out of it, then each time the new batch of challenge would show up, we wouldn't operate from a space of fear. We would operate from a space of abundance, because we know that for whatever reason, the universe just always seems to take care of us. Like, we could both share stories of challenge, I'm sure, sitting here right now. And we're both sitting in a space of health and abundance and wealth. And if we operate the rest of our lives on the fear of whatever that moment took place, then we will debilitate ourselves moving forward. So I'm a big believer in when that moment of fear arises, there's a reasonable fear. And it's kind of to your point. Actually, I probably got to get better articulating this. When that fear arises, with proper calculation, because sometimes people get stuck on just this phantom mindset thing. You do have to have action behind it. You have to have research behind it. But when that fear arises, that's when I know I'm entering into a space of new and fresh and challenge. And that actually is my cue. Do it. But that's backed by a ton of research, a ton of understanding of what I'm about to go do. You know, so no, it's not just when you feel fear, go do it. You got to scrub that too.
Right.
But honestly, when I feel that little bit of fear, I know I'm operating in that space of growth, and I'm like, okay, this is good. This is where I should be. And then the last thing that I teach my kids that I'd love to share with the audience, that's an easy way to reference that mindset right there, is I teach my kids, no brain, that's not fear, that's excitement. And I believe that my brain, whether this is scientifically factual or not, I believe that my brain creates the same hormone when I'm experiencing fear or excitement. It's dripping it on my brain, and it's telling me to experience fear or excitement, but the fear or excitement are defined by the situation I'm in. It's the same hormone. And it's just what I'm seeing that I apply fear or I apply excitement. So I say to myself, no, brain, that's not fear, that's excitement. Anytime I get nerves, anytime I get anxious, anytime, that's excitement. You're trying something new. That fear is new, and that should be exciting. So all of my kids recite that. I could do it with every one of them, even my 3-year-old. I go, no, brain, and he'll go, that's not fear, that's excitement. So I'll leave your viewers at that.
Brother, I'm putting that in my office. I'm putting that in the wall. No brain, that's not fear, it's excitement. I love it. Josh, you and I could do conversations like this for 3-4 hours, out of respect for your time. I hope to invite you back when the studio is done. I think gems like this is what people really need to hear. None of that media bullshit, all the stuff that people kind of, whatever, propagate, Guys like you, guys like me, we just want to be of service. So Thank you so much for being on the show, man. And we'll definitely connect. But for the audience sake, just go ahead and tell them where they can find you.
You can find me on all the social media outlets at I am Josh Galindo. I am Josh Galindo. Obviously, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, Twitter, the whole thing. Please go, if you liked this conversation, there's more of it on all those social media platforms. Please go follow, like, comment, view. I always like to stay from a place of humility. Every comment, every view, every like matters, and I appreciate it.
1000%. And then please, when the studio's done, come back. I only have one request. Make sure you bring the Lambo. All right, brother?
Yeah, I'm going to hold you to that because I'd love to, man.
Yes, sir. All right. Josh, thank you very much, man.